Hello everyone. Today we will discuss the two examples from the Urochordata, that is Doliolum and Salpa, and one example from the Cephalochordata, that is the Amphioxus. So today we will discuss the remaining two examples from Urochordata. The first one is the Doliolum. The Doliolum, the classification of the Doliolum, that is phylum Chordata, then the group Protochordata, subphylum Urochordata, class Thaliacea, order is the Cyclomyria and the genus is the Doliolum. This is a photograph of the Doliolum. This picture or this is the figure of the Doliolum of the sexual form and classification you have to write down on the blank page, and these characteristic features you have to write down it on the lining page. And this Doliolum, the order is the Cyclomyria. The order is Cyclomyria. Cyclo means cyclic, myria means muscles. These are the 8 muscle bands. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In figure you have to draw the 8 muscle bands which are complete, that is in 360 degree. The Doliolum is a polymorphic, that is morphologically different forms having two phases. The one phase is called as a gonozoid and another phase, that is a asexual phase, that is a oozoid. This is the sexual phase or the sexual form, that we called it as a gonozoid. Sexual form, the body is a barrel shape, measuring 1 to 1.5 centimeter with mouth and anus at the opposite end. At one end there is a mouth. Here is the branchial aperture or oral aperture, that is a mouth, and the anal aperture, that is anus. So these are lying at the opposite ends. As it is included in that is a tunicata or Urochordata, the tunic is thin and transparent. That is the muscle bands are circular and 8 in number. Therefore, it is included in the Cyclomyria. And how many muscle bands are there? 8 muscle bands are there. You have to draw only the 8 muscle bands. Then elementary canal, it includes large mouth that leads into the pharynx region. Pharynx is followed by esophagus, then stomach and intestine, and which open into the atrial cavity by the opening, that is aperture, and that we called it as a anus. That means the digestive system is complete. This animal is a hermaphrodites and gonads are unpaired, that is testes and ovaries are unpaired, these are not paired. Fertilized ovum give rise to a tail larva which metamorphose into the asexual zooid, and that we called it as a oozoid. Means this sexual form, it will give rise to the oozoid form. And life cycle exhibits alternation of generation. That means the gonozoid, after that the oozoid, and this oozoid will give rise to the gonozoid. This is the first example from the Urochordata, that is the Doliolum. Then the third example, that first Herdmania we have already discussed in last class. In this class we have discussed the Doliolum, and the third example from the Urochordata is a Salpa. And the order of the Salpa is It is not Cyclomyria, it is Hemimyria. Hemi means half, myria means muscle bands. Means the muscle bands which are present in the body of the Salpa, these are half, not in a that is a 360 degree. Instead they are incomplete. The classification of this Salpa is phylum Chordata, group Protochordata, subphylum Urochordata, class Thaliacea, order is Hemimyria and genus is the Salpa. and this is the asexual phase of the Salpa. And this diagram of the asexual phase of the Salpa and the classification you have to write down on the blank page or drawing page, and these characters you have to write down on the lining page or the writing page. How is the Salpa, or what are the characteristics of the Salpa? Body of the Salpa is the barrel shaped, measuring 1 to 8 cm in length, with mouth and atrial aperture at the opposite ends. This is a atrial aperture, this is a branchial aperture, that is a mouth. Mouth and the atrial aperture, where the anus opens, and therefore these are lying opposite to each other. The taste or tunic or leathery covering is transparent and produces into 2 atrial processes posteriorly. The mantle lies beneath the taste. Mantle कहाँ पे है? It lies beneath the taste. Then pharynx has a ventral endostyle. The pharynx having the the endostyle, which is on the ventral position, and this endostyle it is comparable to the thyroid gland of the vertebrates. Then the pharyngeal bands, dorsal lamina and pair of gills are present. This is a dorsal lamina, then this is a endostyle, then pair of gills, all peripharyngeal bands. These are present in the pharyngeal region. A single tentacle is present on the dorsal surface. Then the esophagus, the stomach, intestine and heart form a compact mass at the posteroventral side, and that is called as a nucleus. From the ventral body wall is given up outgrowth, and that outgrowth it is called as a stolon. This one is a stolon, and it gives rise to the numerous bud which arises as a chain of zooids. Means this stolon it gives rise to the chain of the buds which will give rise to the zooids. The chain of zooid develop sex organs and break off from the parent body. Means this chain of buds it will develop the sex organs, and that will give rise to the that is the sexual phase, and therefore in this Salpa also the alternation of generation is there. If you observe the muscle bands, these muscle bands are not complete or incomplete, and therefore it is included under the hemimyria. Then next subphylum is the Cephalochordata. We have already discussed the Cephalochordata. Cephalic means head region, where the notochord runs from head region to the tail region. What are the characteristic feature? On next page you have to write down the general characteristics of subphylum Cephalochordata. That is on the writing page, and on the left side of this you have to write down this diagram or draw this diagram, that is subphylum Cephalochordata, and it having only single class, that is a Leptocardi, and example is Amphioxus. We have to study the single example from the Cephalochordata, that is a Amphioxus, and on the writing page or on lining page you have to write down all these characteristic features. These cephalochordates are exclusively marine and solitary forms. Exclusively marine means they are living in the marine water or the sea water, and they are not living in a colony. They are living in a singly, and therefore that is the solitary forms. Notochord and dorsal nerve cord extend the entire length of the body, means from head region to the tail region. Notochord and the nerve cord, they are running from head region to tail region. These are the two chordate characteristics. The notochord and nerve cord and pharyngeal gill slits, they remain throughout the life of the animal. These are the three distinct character or basic characteristics or the fundamental characteristics of the chordata which the cephalochordata have, and these remain throughout the life of the animals. Then limbs or paired fins are absent in cephalochordata. The median fins are present. The mouth in cephalochordata is ventrally placed and anteriorly present, while anus is present posteriorly and on the ventral side. That means the mouth and anus present, both are present on ventral side, but mouth is at the anterior anteroventral position and the anus is at the posteroventral position. Then pharynx is perforated by number of or numerous pharyngeal gill slits or openings that are surrounded by the atrium. Means whatever the water comes to the mouth, it comes to the pharynx, it baths the gills and it exits out by the gill slit and it comes to the what? Atrium, and that water it is released outside the body by the opening that we called it as a atriopore. Then exoskeleton, head, then brain, auditory organs and jaws are absent in cephalochordata. Sexes are separate, that is male and the females are separate. No hermaphroditism. The gonads are metamerically arranged, means they are repeating, and arranged on the body wall on the ventral position. These are the characteristic features of the subphylum Cephalochordata. This is the tree diagram. You have to draw on the blank page or that is a drawing page. Then the single example from the the Cephalochordata is the Amphioxus. This is the Amphioxus. What are the characteristics of the Amphioxus? Before discussing the characteristic feature, we will discuss the classification, that is phylum Chordata, group Protochordata, subphylum Cephalochordata, and class is Leptocardi, and this class is a very small class and it is not again divided into orders, and therefore directly we come to the genus, that is Amphioxus. Then this diagram and this classification you have to draw on the blank page, and on the right corner of this blank page you have to write down the classification, and then you have to draw the diagram and carefully label it. Then Amphioxus, it is commonly called as a lancelet. This common name for the Amphioxus, that is a lancelet, as its end is sharp like the lancelet. Then the body is elongated, measuring 5 cm in length, that is very small, laterally compressed, and the body it is pointed at both the ends. What is the lancelet? It is a needle. Lancelet is nothing but a needle by which you can draw the blood. Then the anterior end projects as a rostrum. The anterior tapering end, that we called it as a rostrum. The fins are low and continuous with each other. A dorsal fin, a ventral fin and a caudal fin. You can observe this dorsal fin rays and this dorsal fin supported by the dorsal fin rays. On the ventral side, that is the ventral fin ray or the ventral fin, and the last terminally it is the caudal fin. Means the dorsal fin, then caudal fin and the ventral fin are present. There are the 2 metaplural folds extending up to the atriopore. These are the metaplural folds and 2 in number, which runs up to the atriopore. The myotomes or these muscles are the V-shaped muscles. These are arranged in a V-shaped fashion, and these are called as the muscles or the myotomes, and these myotomes are separated by the structures. These are called as a myosepta. The myotomes are arranged on both the sides, separated by the V-shaped connective tissue or partitions, and that we called it as a myosepta. The atriopore, this is atriopore, this is the opening, it having the 2 openings, one is atriopore and the another one is anus. The atriopore is median and on the ventral position and lies at the junction of metaplural folds and the ventral fin. From there the ventral fin starts, and there is the metaplural fin, that is the folds, ends. At the junction of these two, there is a presence of the atriopore. Then the notochord runs throughout the length of the body, and nerve cord lies above the notochord. Means notochord and nerve cord, These both are running from head region to the tail region. This is a notochord which runs from head region up to the tail region, and along with this, the what parallel to this, the nerve cord is present, which is at the above position or the supraposition. Then the sexes are separate, that is male and the females are separate, and this is the ventral position of the gonads, where these gonads either testes or ovaries, and these are the metaplural, that is what the showing the metamerism, that is number of the gonads are there, that is either testes or ovaries. Then the gonad consists of 26 pairs arranged on both the side of the pharynx, which is under the muscles, or that we called it as a myotomes. Means on the ventral side below the myotomes, the 26 pairs of the gonads are present, that may be the that is testes or the ovaries. So these are the characteristic features of the Amphioxus. You have to write down the word classification and the diagram on the drawing page, and on writing page or on lining page you have to write down the word characteristic features of the Amphioxus. And this completes your first thing, that is what all examples from the protochordata. In protochordata, first diagram you have to draw of the what herdmania and write down its characteristic features and write down the classification. Second diagram is of the what, the second diagram that you have to draw is the Doliolum. Then you have to write down the characteristic features and the classification. Third, you have to draw the asexual phase of the Salpa. You have to write down the characteristic feature. And the fourth diagram from the cephalochordata, or fourth animal which you have to write down from the protochordata, is the what, the Amphioxus. So you have to draw neat and well labeled diagram. You have to write down the classification of these animals and write down the characteristic features of all these protochordates.